All right, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to NickTalks. Fun fact, I actually recorded this video yesterday, but I was just incoherently rambling because I didn't, take the time to organize my thoughts on paper before I set out. I hope everyone's doing great. It's a pretty sunny day here in Florida. Hope everyone's got some great weather. Today, or what I already talked about, but I'm now talking about again, is employee and employer relationships and the true nature of it. Because this is something that I struggled with when I was younger. Not as severely as I see a lot of other people struggling with, but it's something that I've been taught recently and have gotten much, much better at realizing that what is really supposed to occur, what is the literal nature of employee and employer relationships, rather than this innuendo that exists in the gray space that is often occurring. So, obviously, any job you work, there's going to be people complaining all the time about any number of issues, other employees, management, hours, pay, all of these things. So the issue with that is, one, if you're complaining to everyone else, that's not going to change anything. It's not you talking to your coworkers about what pisses you off at the job is not going to fix the problem. So do you want to exist with this issue, or do you want to find a solution, right? Because otherwise, you're kind of just playing with yourself a little bit. What is the point to mind-numbingly complain to a great extent if it's not going to accomplish anything? What are you doing? What is the purpose of that action? So instead, find a solution, right? And the problem there is that I honestly don't believe that most people know how to communicate with the company that they work for, or at least how to organize themselves in a way that they are respected enough to where these kind of annoyances don't happen. So I've got all this stuff written down here. I'll kind of just go one by one. So first, the relationship between the employee and the employer. Now, the employer doesn't have to be like the president or the CEO. It can be any level of management above you. It is a partnership, it's a partnership, meaning I provide value by giving you my time and my energy so that some tasks are completed that now you do not have to do. So from a management perspective, they are paying someone else to do the job that they are now above doing. Not because they're better than that job, but because they have moved on to greater tasks, right? You can't have the CEO running every aspect of the company and also doing the dishes. It's just not logistically going to work out. So they need you as much as you need them, and maybe even more, right? That doesn't mean that you are entitled to anything. It just means that you are giving and also receiving, and vice versa. So that's important to keep in mind as you kind of interact with your bosses. If you think that they're demanding too much, or they don't respect you or anything, or you allow them to disrespect you and kind of trample all over you, you have to just kind of remember that you are there for a reason, and you don't have to be. And especially if you do your job well, any putz can come along and do it half-ass, So it's important to remember that you don't owe them anything other than what you're scheduled, the hours that you're scheduled, and the duties that you are specifically told that you are to perform. That is the only things that you owe your company, right? And all they owe you is whatever they promise up front, which is the pay, right? And maybe scheduled increases in pay, any benefits that they promise, right? Some kind of job security and reliable management in HR. That's pretty much it, right? Clean work environment, safe work environment, all these things. And that's the nature of the relationship, meaning that they can't really push past that boundary, and neither can you, really, generally. So just keep that in mind. And the next thing, before we get into anything else, I think this is an extremely important premise. The harder that you work in any environment, the easier it is to get what you want, right? You get out what you put in. So before you make any of the demands or start pursuing any of the things that I'm about to talk about, you have to solidify your work ethic first, right? You cannot ask for things. I mean, you can try, but you're much less likely to get anything. Any positive treatment, any first dibs on a new job, or any likely pay raises if you are not working hard. And the harder you work, which there is a caveat to that, the harder you work, the more you're going to get out, okay? Because you are working hard, you are now earning the voice and the respect to make demands, as I'll call them. Because it's not like you are demanding these things. It's, you ask and you set the standard, you set what you want to receive from the company, and they can refuse, right? But it's really like, these are my terms kind of thing. And you can accept them or you can deny them, but either way, this is what I want to see from where I work. So first, make sure that you're working your butt off before you start asking for any special treatment. So it is extremely important to set boundaries with other staff, with management. Really, I'm kind of just talking about management versus employee relationship, but you can kind of apply these principles either way. I would say you have to set boundaries. You have to put up a wall that, like, I am a human being, right? I have a life outside of this place. So you can interact with me, but there are lines that you don't cross, right? I don't need to tell you about my personal life. I really don't, nor should you ask. If I want to share things with you because we've maintained or built a relationship, we can get to that point. But just set appropriate boundaries for the workplace, and in doing so, people respect you so much more. When I've gone into jobs and I've been upfront and, like, I don't tell them anything about my life, I don't tell them, if I ask for availability, say I can't work these days. Why can't you? It doesn't matter. Okay? Professional development. That's what I always say. That's my favorite line. Let's just call it professional development. And they say, what does that mean? I say, I have things to do. I have things I need to take care of, and I need those days specifically to work on those things. That's it. The less that they know, the better in the long run, and they don't really have the right to ask you anyways. They're not supposed to, but a lot of times they will anyways, but you have to be strong enough to be like, no, I'm not telling you. And not like an ass about it, but just, you stay over there and I'll stay over here. I'll do my job and you do yours, and we're all cool, right? But it is important to set these boundaries within reason. When you start making requests or demands or setting boundaries, it's important to think things through before you make a move in asking for anything. Because you just have to think, have I earned this? Do I have the place to say these things? Have I earned the respect or the right to be communicating in this way? And if you aren't working hard, it's not likely a yes. You have to make sure that you are really, the more value, it's really just a valuation. The more value that you're providing, the less likely they are to say no to anything. Like, if you're a freaking workhorse and you don't ask for much in return and you just do your job, not to kiss ass, but because you're a hard worker, then you have a lot of room to ask for things, right? And it's almost always an immediate yes, approaching it correctly. But you still have to set boundaries within reason. Even if I'm like the greatest worker at a company, you can only push so far before they're going to start being like, all right, we gave you an inch and now you're taking a mile and it's just not working out, right? Maybe that doesn't mean you're going to get fired, but they're going to treat you less and they're going to honor your requests much less. So it's important to just make sure that you think everything through before you start setting boundaries or making demands or anything like that, because otherwise it gets messy. The next thing on our list here is setting availability. So this is kind of part of boundaries, but when you set availability, like I said, they're not supposed to ask, but they probably will anyways. You do not have to tell them anything, nor should you. I argue that it's much better to just leave it blank, personal. Don't worry about it. I got stuff I got to take care of. That's it. Because your home life is your home life. As soon as you clock out, the only part of your life that anyone in your company, workspace, job, whatever, should be privy to is whatever happens in between when you clock in and when you clock out. That is all they are obligated to know, right? And anything that you tell them is your choice to share. But you are not obligated to share anything about your personal life. So when you set availability, it's important to stick to it. So now, you set availability, you say, I can't work Mondays and Tuesdays. Why? Doesn't matter. Cool, we're past that. Then say 2-3 weeks go down the line, they give you you're working hard, they give you the availability that you want. You have Mondays and Tuesdays off, and then your manager comes up to you and says, hey, so-and-so called out on Monday, can you please cover the shift? We have no one to work it. No, I cannot. Right? This violates the established boundary, right? Now, it's not you being like, man, I'd love to help, but I can't. It's not you purposely making their job harder, but really it is management's job to fulfill scheduling. Okay? That is not my job. If I was paid to make the schedule, I'd be making the schedule, but I'm not paid, nor do I do that. So that falls under someone else's duties, and I don't have to take care of those. So you just have to stick to it. If they schedule you, say you ask for Mondays and Tuesdays off, you've had Mondays and Tuesdays off for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks, and all of a sudden you're scheduled. I would probably call and talk to them, but definitely don't show up. Because what happens is if they ask you, can you cover on Monday, and you got stuff to do that day, but you're like, you know what, I can work it, I'll help these guys out. You know what they're going to do next Monday? Or next time that you have a day off and they need someone, they're going to call you, and they're going to expect you to work it. And then it provides room for them to slowly start chipping away at your agreement and slowly start violating it more and more. And not because they're intentionally being rude, but because management has one focus, and that is keeping the company running, right? They don't care about your personal life. They don't care, and that's okay, because that's all their job is. They're not your therapist. They're not your mom. They're not your dad, right? Not your grandma, right? Their job is to make sure the company runs, okay? So it is your job to teach them that the company running is their job and not yours. And your home life will not be sacrificed just so that the company can run. It's making your priorities obvious, right? Because if you start saying, yeah, I know I said that my availability is these days, but I'll work that day because you really need it. Oh, well, I saw you scheduled me, but it's okay, it's not a big deal. Then all of a sudden that teaches them that, okay, their home life is not a big priority. So we can if we need to, we can push that thread or pull that thread a little bit. And then down the road, all it is you get scheduled when you get scheduled, and they don't care about what you said in the first place, right? So you have to teach people where the line is and where to, you respect me here and I'll respect you here, okay? You're not going to push too far and then take. Because otherwise you end up like all these people that I continuously work with that just sit and complain. And it's like, yes, I understand your complaints are always valid, of course, but who taught them to treat you this way? Who taught them to schedule you on your off days? Who taught them that? You did. There's only one person who can allow these things to happen, and that's you, right? So you make sure that if you set rules, follow them, right? The more wishy-washy you are, the more they're like, hey, okay, we can play with this guy a little bit, and that's not what you want at all, right? So we have that. Set availability, stick to it, and explain nothing. Your personal life is none of the employee's business, employer's business, or the employees, really. Work, home life, keep it separate, dog. Come on. Okay, and then this next one is kind of, I would say, this taboo that exists that is so beyond me. Which it was hard for me in the beginning, but now that I've kind of built the habit and understood the principle, it makes so much more sense. And it is insane to me that people, especially people much older than myself, just cannot come to this realization. It's to use management to your advantage. Now, when I was younger, or before I heard this, everyone always said, like, if I have a problem with something, an employee does something to me, and then, oh, what are you gonna go do? Tell the manager? You're a snitch, right? There's this huge taboo around telling someone of authority anything. But what you have to realize is the workplace runs based on rules, okay? And when we don't have rules or people to enforce them, then what do we have? We have a jungle gym. We have an animal farm, okay? We have a circus, right? I come into work and I perform my tasks and expect to get paid, and I expect others to do the same. And I don't need friction there, okay? There doesn't need to be drama, there doesn't need to be beef ever. So, when you have issues that you cannot fix, now this can be issues with other employees, this can be issues with management, this can be issues with pay, this can be issues with hours, this can be issues with customers. This is a perfect perspective. When you are, say, working retail or in the restaurant business, and you have a customer that is just being a total ass, and they're just taking you for a ride, right? Handle it best you can, but then what do? You have to talk to a manager. Or when something goes wrong, who do they ask for? A manager, because there are problems that you can't solve, and that's the nature of your position, right? If you're management, you have to solve these problems. That's what you're hired to do. That's what you're paid to do. You're paid for these tasks. You must complete them. So, video cut off. Running out of storage here on the old cellular. But that's okay. You're paid for these tasks. You have to complete them, I think is where I left off. So, the point is, it's okay to use your management. If you don't, there is a line between snitching and problem solving. So like if someone does some mildly annoying thing to you, don't run to the management and say, hey, I have a problem with this person. However, if it's a very serious problem that you can't solve yourself, then you need to talk to them. So the biggest example that I have about this, and this has really changed the way that I look at work, is having the principle around your money. That's the reason that you go there. It's the reason that you clock in and out every day, right? You're only going to work for one reason, and that's money, okay? I mean, otherwise, you would just stay home. If you could just make money, you would just stay home, right? So creating a principle around nobody messes with your money because they're messing with your time. Now, I heard Alex Hormozy recently said that money is a tradable unit of time, and I think that's extremely accurate. So I am spending hours and hours of valuable time that I love a day, giving it to a company so that in return, they give me that value back in dollars, right? So I'd say that one of the biggest things that you should rely on your management for is resolving problems that directly impact your money, right? So if someone is doing things that is ruining, like say someone is, say I'm at work and someone is coming up to some of my tables and like saying mean things or ruining the energy that I've created, the rapport with the table that I've built, and then all of a sudden my tips are affected, that's like unacceptable, right? If a food runner is coming by and they're just dropping stuff down, and that's unacceptable. You can't just ruin the experience of my guests because you are not good at your job and in turn are affecting my money. That's when you go to management. You say that, hey, this is something that's unacceptable. I come here for a reason, and that reason is being chipped away by this other person's attitude. That's a good example of what I would say is a good line to have. You know what I mean? You can find your own personal preferences of like what you find acceptable and not, but I would say for me personally, that's a big no-no. That's a big no-no. When someone's like playing around with how much money I'm going to make in a day, we're going to have issues, and I'm going to have to definitely utilize the higher ups to resolve this issue. Obviously, it's always best to go to the person first and be like, look, dude, you can't do this. Always try and solve the problem yourself and then go to management. But sometimes it's okay to skip the step. So kind of back on the work hard and earn the voice. These are the last two things I have here. Be accountable to them and they will be accountable to you. That's pretty much all it is. And that is with almost any relationship. If you are accountable, people can count on you to do what you say you're going to do, what you are required to do, and then some. They're going to go the extra mile for you as well. And that's just like, if you give, the more you put in, the more you get out. I do my job at work to the T, and then I do other people's jobs, and then I do extra tasks just to try and help people out, right? Not because I'm a suck up, not because I'm trying to get special treatment, because it's the right thing to do. And because of that extra accountability, they are extra accountable to me. When I need something, they give it to me. When I ask for days off, they give it to me. You know what I mean? When I am looking for a raise or a promotion, they give it to me. You know what I mean? Because I work hard. And that's the fastest way to get in good graces. Also, I'm not sure if I mentioned this, but I did have it down. In the beginning, like when you first started a company, I'd say give it 3 to 6 weeks before you start making schedule changes or putting in availability. Or I'd say you have to earn the voice first. You have to prove that you are worth them making exceptions for. Because if you jump right on the boat and immediately you're telling them how to row it, you're going to have issues. You know what I mean? So I eat shit for a little bit when I start with a company. Usually it only takes me 2 or 3 weeks, and then I'm like, okay, this is how it's going to be. But you have to let them see what kind of worker you are before they start making exceptions. And the other thing, and this also goes along with it is partnership, is it's okay to say no. If a manager asks you to, hey, can you do this? Can you do this task extra? Can you work this extra couple hours? Can you do this? And it violates something that you had planned, or you have something else to do, you are under no obligation to fulfill any extra thing other than what you are paid to do, right? Now, assuming you will be paid for whatever extra there is too, but what is directly required is your scheduled hours, okay? So if you are asked for any more than that, it's okay to say no. Now, I've noticed, now I usually say no. I don't cover shifts and I don't work weekends, that's a different job. I don't cover shifts and I don't pull doubles. That's kind of my line right now. At a previous job, it was I don't work weekends, right? You set these rules, and if they ask, you say no. Hey, can you pull a double today? No. It's okay, right? You're not obligated to do these things, and you're not worse off because you said no. You just aren't any better, I would say. Because that's your right. It's your right to refuse extra tasks. That's okay. So that kind of comes to the end of my thing here. I'd say just if you reduce your employment down to what it literally is, what should and should not be occurring, because it's easy to just get sucked into this human game of emotions and things like that occur in the workplace, because it always includes emotions. But if you reduce it down to like, okay, this is a company that sells this product or these products or this service or whatever. They require me to do these tasks so that they can do these tasks and so the customer can be satisfied, right? Once you start reducing things down to the basic elements, you can kind of realize like, okay, this is kind of unacceptable. You know what I mean? Like, this person is saying these things at work, and it's like making everybody else all pissed off, and they're kind of ruining the vibe. Like, that is directly affecting the experience of all these people here. And most likely the output flow of product or service. So that's where you deem things unacceptable, is by just kind of think back to what is really going on, not this high school BS of drama, he said, she said stuff, but like it's a workplace, it's a professional environment, right? So just that always helps me kind of come back and be like, is this acceptable? Professional environment, no, this seems like something that would happen in a middle school class. I'm gonna go with no. No, it's not acceptable. So that's just kind of how I think about it. But I'd say that making some of these changes has really changed my life, because I'm not self-employed. I don't have the capital to be going on business ventures, right? I can't. I mean, I probably could, I guess, if I was working smarter, not harder. But for right now, the path that I've chosen is to work a job and put the excess into other areas. So if you are like me and you are working a job because you have to or want to or just are right now, then I'd say that following some of these things, making sure that you're being accountable and holding other people accountable and demanding excellence in the workplace and working hard and setting boundaries and not violating them, not allowing others to violate them, has really helped me earn respect in the workplace. And by extension, I mean, I progressed super quickly through jobs because of these things. And I think because of these things. Because before, I would get promotions and raises, but kind of sporadically and like reluctantly, you know what I mean? And I've always worked the same amount. So it has to be a respect thing. And people, when they respect you and they see what you're about, they treat you accordingly. So it's just about putting your best foot forward and teaching people, this is the line, we don't cross it, otherwise I'm out. You know what I mean? And not disrespectfully, just like, hey, I respect you, you respect me, that's it. I give and you give and we're both happy. Cool. So that's kind of all I have today. I might just binge record today and maybe we'll have a whole bunch of steady posts pretty soon. But with that, everyone have a great day. Thank you for watching. Appreciate it. Nick out.